Let's talk about something that's happening all around us, but we're just not seeing it. It's an unseen killer, responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of women every single year. And no, it's not some new virus. It's a crisis that's been hiding in plain sight, really, for decades, fueled by misunderstanding and just plain inequity. So let's dive in and really uncover the truth about heart disease in women. Okay, so let me ask you a question right off the bat. What do you think is the number one killer of women here in the United States? Just take a second to think about it. Most people, their minds immediately go to breast cancer or maybe other forms of cancer. But what if I told you the real answer is something else entirely? Yep, the answer is cardiovascular disease. Now, that's a big term that includes heart disease and stroke. And get this, according to the American Heart Association, it claims more lives in the US than all forms of cancer and chronic lower respiratory disease combined. That is a massive deal. It kind of feels like we've been focusing on the wrong threat all this time. And let's just talk about the sheer scale of this for a moment. In 2021 alone, cardiovascular disease was the underlying cause of death for over 931,000 people in the US. I mean, that's not a small number. That is a full-blown public health crisis that really needs our attention. So, to bring this home for women specifically, this number is it's staggering. 1 in every 5 female deaths in the United States is caused by cardiovascular disease. 1 in 5. That means someone you know, your mother, your sister, a daughter, a friend, is affected by this. And think about how quickly time flies. The urgency here is it's undeniable. In 2021, on average, someone in the US died from a stroke every 3 minutes and 14 seconds. That speed, that frequency, it just goes to show how deeply this issue is woven into our lives. So you have to wonder, right? Why is this crisis so hidden? Well, a huge part of the problem comes down to perception. For decades, literally decades, our entire understanding of heart disease was built almost exclusively around men. And that created this massive and frankly deadly blind spot. You know, this phenomenon actually has a name. It's called Yentl syndrome. Dr. Bernadine Healy coined it back in 1991. And yeah, it's named after that movie where Barbra Streisand's character has to pretend to be a man to get an education. It's the same idea in medicine. A woman's heart disease often goes completely unrecognized unless it presents just like a man's. We've all seen it in the movies, right? That Hollywood heart attack, the guy clutching his chest, the pain shooting down his arm. But here's the critical disconnect. For women, the symptoms can be way more subtle. We're talking shortness of breath, nausea, even just an ache in the jaw or back. And this difference is a huge reason why women are so often misdiagnosed. And this isn't just some academic debate, you know. The medical journal The Lancet put it really bluntly. They said that this historic failure to take a balanced approach, quote, has cost the lives of many women. That's the real-world price of a medical system built around just one half of the population. But this whole perception problem, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It gets exponentially worse when it's compounded by systemic inequity. For Black women, this crisis has extra layers of dangerous challenges piled on top. Just look at this number. An absolutely alarming 59% of Black women over the age of 20 are living with some form of cardiovascular disease. That is the highest rate of any racial or gender group. And believe me, that is not a coincidence. It's the result of some really deep-rooted factors. One of those factors is a concept called weathering. Think of it as the physical wear and tear on the body that's caused by the chronic, grinding stress of navigating systemic racism, sexism, and other barriers day in and day out. This isn't just in your head. It physically increases your blood pressure and inflammation, which directly jacks up your risk for heart disease. And then, layered on top of that physical toll is another powerful, totally invisible barrier: stigma. You know, that feeling of shame that gets attached to an illness. For something like high blood pressure, which people often see as preventable, it can lead to blame, to stereotyping, and it can cause people to just hide their diagnosis or avoid getting help altogether. Listen to this quote from a woman in a hypertension study. It's heartbreakingly honest. She says, "I feel shame because it shows poor health. I don't take care of myself like I should." That's self-stigma. It's when you start to believe the blame yourself, and that feeling can be completely paralyzing. And here's another voice, really highlighting that social part of it. People judge, and I'm embarrassed because I feel ashamed that I have the condition.
This fear of what other people will think can lead women to just suffer in silence, telling no one and putting off the care they desperately need.
So you have these intensely personal feelings of shame, and then you run headfirst into real-world obstacles. The system itself has barriers baked right in. Studies show us Black women are less likely to get referred to things like cardiac rehab, they face higher rates of being uninsured, and as we've already talked about, diagnostic bias means their symptoms just aren't always taken seriously. Okay, I know after hearing all of that, it can feel pretty overwhelming. But here's where we pivot. Because the single most powerful tool we have in this fight is knowledge. This is all about empowering ourselves and each other through awareness and, most importantly, action. So, where do we start? Well, the American Heart Association has created this fantastic framework to help us out. It's called Life's Essential 8, and it's basically a clear, science-backed checklist for improving and maintaining your heart health for your whole life. And the steps are really straightforward, but they are so powerful. Eat a healthy diet, be physically active, don't smoke, get enough sleep, and then work with your doctor to manage your weight, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, and your blood sugar. In a system that might overlook you, taking proactive control of these 8 things is your absolute first line of defense. A huge part of this is becoming your own advocate, and that starts with knowing your numbers. I'm talking about your blood pressure, your cholesterol levels, both the bad LDL and the good HDL, your fasting glucose, your BMI. These aren't just random numbers on a chart. They're vital signs about your health that you need to know and you need to track. And all of this leads to a really crucial point. You have to be an active, vocal participant in your own care. Ask your doctor questions until you understand. If something doesn't feel right, go get a second opinion. You have every right to demand better, more attentive care. Now, individual action is incredibly powerful, but let's be real, it can't be the only solution. To truly fix this crisis, we need systemic change. We have to build a future where heart health is equitable for every single person. So, what does that path forward actually look like? Well, it means doing things like implementing automatic referrals for cardiac rehab to take a doctor's personal bias out of the equation. It means training our healthcare providers in culturally competent care so they actually understand the unique needs of all their patients. It means empowering communities with education that actually resonates with them. And yeah, it means advocating for policies that make healthcare accessible and affordable for everyone. Let's end with this. This isn't just a health issue, right? It's a human issue. It's about recognizing the value and the vulnerability of every single life. So please remember, your heart matters. Your life matters, and it's time we all start fighting for both.